Well, thanks for that response, Gary. I admire your persistency or tenacity, even for continually responding to my videos, because I know it pains you to do so, and it must be frustrating. But at the same time, you keep responding to them, so I guess somewhere deep inside you're enjoying this. But anyways, let me let me assure you first of all that I'm not trying to sneak religion in the back door by logically proving the existence of God. Um, to me, I think that's conflating um, two levels of human consciousness that can't be really related: logic and rationality and religion. They exist. Stephen Jay Gould said they're non-overlapping magisteria, and that could be one way of saying this. That religion deals with these ineffable things, and science deals with these empirical things that we can prove by, or at least develop theories about by observing the world and recording what we observe. Whereas religion is more of this internal process of coming to know and understand the meaning and value of reality rather than the truth or facticity of it. Um, Part of being human is having to deal with both of these areas of our uh, realities. Our consciousness is structured such that we can view the world as nothing but um, something to be mapped by rationality and understood logically, but we can also view the world as something to be lived and participated in as some unfolding, meaningful reality where we're never quite sure what it is out there that's going on. We're just sure that it is, and that we are here, and that it matters because we exist and we feel not only pain and suffering, but happiness and bliss. Not only hatred and fear, but love. And we know other people are here feeling the same thing, so there's some degree of importance to being alive. And that's where religion comes into play, and where science is sort of left out of the picture. Science is about theory, meaning you want to step back and just take it in from that, third person objective point of view. And there's certainly something to be said for that. And I'm not against science at all. And I've been using the word religion to describe this sense of importance and meaning in reality, but I should say spirituality, because the way you're using the word religion, Gary, certainly I don't want anything to do with that. That dogma that people believe because some authority figures told them to believe it, and because they were raised and they never got exposed to any other ideas or stories of origin. Look, we all have creation myths, whether we're atheists or we're Christians. But the difference between a fundamentalist evangelical Christian and a more agnostic or open-minded atheistic perspective is that the atheistic perspective or the agnostic perspective has had access to more than one creation myth. They weren't indoctrinated by this single biblical story of Genesis and told that that's the one literal truth, and that Jesus is the one Son of God and the only holy person to ever walk the face of the earth. Him and the saints, I guess, if you're Catholic. But, the difference is more cultured people have been exposed to more myths of creation. But at the end of the day, we all need a certain myth to live by. And by myth, I don't mean a lie or a made-up story. I mean a metaphor that, science can only take us so far. We can only have empirical knowledge of a small portion of reality. When we go way back in time to the beginning of all of this, we're at the borderline of what science can actually help us with. And if we want to make sense of anything, including the place of science in our existence, we have to come up with some kind of metaphorical understanding of how we got here and what we're doing. And, you know, these videos I'm making about science and spirituality and religion, I'm just trying to point that out. Because essentially, so many forms of the more closed-minded type of atheism, the reductionistic, materialistic atheism that thinks that logic and rationality are the only modes of perception that human beings should use, and that if every person was strictly logical about every aspect of their lives, that we'd have a perfect world. That's the kind of thing that I think is dangerous, and that I'm trying to point out is in a sense ungrounded. Not only do I think that's undesirable, I think it's impossible. Because you can have all the theoretical knowledge of the world that you want, all the objective third-person perspectives of it that you want. You're still alive. You're going to die. You have relationships with people. You have wishes and desires and drives and emotions, and you have a lack of understanding of how you came to be here at a ontological level, at the level of existence itself, of your being. Your whole existence is a mystery as soon as you start to experience it immediately, firsthand, instead of theoretically from a distance. And you can't just get rid of the immediate experience of being alive and replace it with this mediated, objective perspective, because you're embodied. You're a biological organism that was born, that, essentially you came from nothing and you're going to pass on into nothing, or at least the kind of nothingness that it's nothingness to you from your perspective now, because you can't see beyond your own birth. You can't see beyond your own death. So your existence is inherently within this horizon, and you're encompassed by this completely incomprehensible mystery. And that's all I'm trying to point out, that we can't just fall back on logic and think that that's going to be our savior. We certainly can't fall back on technology and think that that's going to be our savior. It's quite the opposite. And, by technology, I just mean anything that we do to control nature, or to suppose that we could control nature. We think it allows us to make progress, to improve nature, because somehow nature is broken and needs fixing. This, I think, is the most pernicious myth of our time. And now I'm using the word myth as a made-up story. The myth of progress, the myth that technology will save us. Because we need saving from ourselves more than we need saving from nature. This process of trying to improve nature, to make progress. Sometimes, Gary, you talk about it as if we need to use this to fix nature, and if only people could gain the objective perspective required to realize that nature was broken and to move forward with this process of fixing it, we would all be okay. But we started this process of trying to fix nature more than 200 years ago. It's basically what the Industrial Revolution was all about. And what do we have to show for it now? Well, on the societal level, we have terrible alienation, and psychological dysfunction is at an all-time high, not only because psychologists are classifying more disorders, but because people are far less happy and fulfilled in their lives than they were before. Even though we have better medical attention and a better lifestyle materially, emotionally, psychologically, we're as worse off as we've ever been, I think. But not only that, the Industrial Revolution, this drive of technology to improve nature, has led to terrible pollution. It's led to world wars and nuclear bombs and genocide. Genocide is the result of governments trying to control populations, which is, people are just nature too. This urge and obsession with control, I think, it's terrible. And I think it calls for a more spiritual view of reality, and all that means is being open to living in harmony with nature. Not that nature is always something you can lay down and cuddle with. Sometimes it's going to try to bite you, but when you try to prevent it from ever biting you, you end up just digging yourself a much deeper hole, because nature reacts to our attitude towards it. And, that might sound crazy, but just think about that. I don't mean it literally, but just think about that. And if anything, having a more spiritual understanding of life and death would do us all a lot of good, I think.